Hey, I'm Rick Husey, Tech Tuesday. Sorry about that little noise there in the beginning, and then my screen froze, which was doing just a minute ago. But welcome to Tech Tuesday. It's 3 o'clock on Tuesdays, and I'm here every Tuesday at 3 o'clock talking about technical issues, a lot of issues that would apply to communication service providers, and we're going to be doing that today. My special guest today is Kevin Mitchell from Alianza. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Rick. Glad to be here again with you on Tech Tuesday.
Thank you. Good to have you back again. And our topic today is RDOF, which is the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, and that is kind of like the successor to CAF2, or the Connect America Fund, where the FCC is giving away money to organizations, a lot of times service providers that can provide internet in rural areas, some areas that maybe where the digital divide is a little bit more severe, and that's become very evident in some cases. Kevin, you probably noticed this as well with Alianza. You've got a lot of service providers out there right now that are trying to make sure that they have their broadband set up right, and probably voice and other stuff like that because of the COVID outbreak.
Absolutely.
So there's been a lot of that going on. So we're going to be talking about that today, and today we're going to be focusing on voice because one of the things that RDOF does is it makes sure that everybody can get connected with broadband, but then also they want to make sure that everybody can get voice as well, the same kind of voice service that they can get in other locations. So we're going to be talking about that today. So why don't we go ahead and start, Kevin? We got a little presentation here. I'll bring that up. All right. Which one is it? It is that one. There we go. So the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, again, RDOF and the voice requirements for that. And just kind of I want to give a quick summary on this. Kevin, you can talk a little bit more about on the voice side of it. But so this fund is $20.4 billion over 10 years. So this is a lot more than was originally allocated for Connect America. It's like 14 times what was in Connect America. So it's $20.4 billion over 10 years, again, for areas that don't have voice or broadband service. And $16 billion is going to be done in phase one, and that's for what they're calling unserved areas. And unserved has they've raised the bar since CAF2, which was 10 by 1 service, 10 megabits per second down by 1. They've raised the bar on what they define broadband as to 25 by 3. That's for this, and that's also moving forward for this next year is what they're proposing, 25 by 3. So it's $16 billion in phase one for areas that don't have at least, this is the kind of funny part, at least one subscriber that can get 25 by 3 service in a particular census block. If you've got at least one person there, you could say it's served. But so 25 by 3 is the threshold there. $4.4 billion will be in phase two, and that will be in partially served blocks where it'll be kind of the second phase of that. Anything that's remaining. Like CAF2, the minimum bid area is a census block. And phase one bidding, it was pushed back because of COVID, but it's now rescheduled for October 29th, 2020. And something else to keep in mind, if you have bid on this, you're probably aware of it, hopefully, or if you put in your short form application, the applications have been looked at by the FCC, and they determined which ones were complete and which ones were incomplete. And the deadline for getting your corrections in is tomorrow, the 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you haven't done that, you're probably aware of that, or hopefully you are. And the FCC should have reached out to you if you put in an application that was found incomplete, and they would have gotten with you and told you what needed to be done to make that right. It could have been something maybe with the financial information you provided or something in the technology that they needed more information about. But anyway, that's tomorrow, so make sure that you get that done if you are wanting to participate, and then the auction takes place on the 29th of October. And by the way, if you want a little bit more information on how the auction works, kind of the reverse auction and the descending clock, I did a Tech Tuesday a little while ago before the short form applications were being put in, and I talked about that. I talked about the short form application a lot. That's now closed. But I also talked about how the auction will work and the descending clock and that kind of thing. So just look below. There's a pin link there, and you can find that from a previous broadcast. And again, just as part of a review, the minimum is 25 by 3. If you're going to bid, that's what they're looking for at a minimum definition of broadband, and they've got some usage tiers and then some weights assigned on those. So you've got 25 by 3, you've got a 50 by 5, 100 by 20, and then the gigabit tier is gigabit by 500 down, and you can see the usage goes up, the amount of usage that you're supposed to allow. And that usage is based, when they based that usage, they looked at kind of the norms today. So that usage may change in the future, just be aware of that. So as this goes out 10 years, that usage amount may, that tier for usage may go up. Just something to be aware of. And this weight is something that weighs down your bid, and I talk about that in that prior Tech Tuesday if you want to check that out, where what they're really trying to do is get gigabit speeds and low latency. So they have, you see there, that's 0 weight for gigabit and low latency, which means when you go in there, you don't get penalized at all. And if you're going to do the very minimum at 25 by 3 and high latency, you're getting penalized like 90 points. That doesn't mean that you can't win, because the way this auction starts is they start way above 100%, and then as the rounds go on, that declines. So you still have a chance if you're going to provide that kind of service. But if there's nobody there that can provide gigabit, you actually might have a chance because of the weighting, right? And also the descending clock. So that's how that works. And then also for voice, well, for all of these, you're going to have a performance tier that you've got to meet, and you've got to do testing on this quarterly, similar to CAF2. So you've got to meet, it got to be over or equal to 95% of all peak periods on round-trip latency measurements, as far as latency goes. And then on the voice side, which again, you've got to provide voice, you've got to have a MOS score, mean opportunity score, of greater than or equal to 4 if you're going to be in the high latency tier. And that's basically the cusp between okay and good on the MOS scores. And then, again, this is a voice service requirement, so you've got to offer voice broadband, and the way it reads is at services at rates that are reasonably comparable to rates offered in urban areas. So if you're going to do this in a rural area, you've got to be able to do it the same as they could be compared to in, let's say, an urban area. You've got to offer lifeline voice and broadband service through all those eligible areas that you qualify for. You have to offer a standalone voice service, and that simply means that if you have a customer and all they want from you is voice, you have to provide it. So you could do that through your traditional phone infrastructure if you have that, or if you're providing VoIP service, then you've got to provide them with a minimal broadband connection to be able to support voice. Doesn't mean you need to actually allow them to transmit broadband traffic. That can be turned off, but you have to have that broadband connection and then allow them to do the voice service over that, so you can do a voice only. And you have to be designated as an ETC within 180 days. That is a eligible, what is that, eligible telecommunications carrier, I believe, Kevin, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. After being announced as the winning bidder. So once they announce the bidders, then you have to be designated an ETC within 180 days. So it's a good idea to go ahead and get that application going if you're going to be bidding on this and doing the auction, so that you don't have to wait a long time. Now there is, they do say here in the last report and order from January, and they did this with CAF2, they said the FCC will presume that an entity acted in good faith if it files its ETC application within 30 days of the release of the public notice announcing that it is a winning bidder. So if you do file for that within 30 days, and it takes your Public Utility Commission, let's say 6 months to get that completed, that seems to be okay. The FCC has assumed that you've acted in good faith by filing that within 30 days. And again, as far as a standalone service, it says the Commission made clear when it adopted the standalone voice requirement as a condition of receiving Connect America Fund support in 2011 that the definition of the supported service, voice telephony service, is technologically neutral, allowing ETCs to provision voice service over many platforms. So standalone voice service doesn't mean you need to buy your own switch and do all of that stuff. You can do that in other ways that we'll be talking about, actually. You can see that here. This is also important. This was from the public notice for CAF2 when they were clarifying this ETC and the requirements. This was back from July of 2018, but this applies moving forward. An ETC satisfies its obligation to offer qualifying services by being legally responsible for dealing with customer problems, providing quality of service guarantees, and meeting Universal Service Fund related requirements. Accordingly, a broadband provider may satisfy its voice obligation by offering voice service through an affiliate or by offering a managed voice solution, including VoIP, through a third-party vendor, but cannot simply rely on the availability of over-the-top voice options. So if you're going to provide this voice, you've got to own it from the standpoint of customer service and billing, and it needs to be a service that you're providing. You can't just tell the customer or the subscriber, okay, you've got your broadband connection, go out and get a Vonage account, because you're not responsible for that Vonage account. But you would be responsible for this service, and you can do it if you go through a third-party vendor as well. So those are some things that I wanted to just kind of bring you up to speed. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Kevin, now, and you can talk a little bit about voice and just VoIP in general, but also how this can help out. So, these providers or these operators may be getting into RDOF, and maybe they're providing broadband, but they're not providing voice, and they're like trying to think, how can I do that quickly if I win this, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Rick. Just one follow-on comment. Excellent summary on RDOF and the voice obligations and ETC. One of the things that's notable and notably different from CAF2 is that the service provider needs to offer phone service the day or within a month after receiving funding, not after completion of build-out. So that's quite a bit different. It puts maybe some additional challenges on the standalone voice offering. But certainly doable, but something service providers need to think about as they're looking at their long-term voice over IP plans and how they're going to deliver that to meet all the RDOF obligations. But, one of the things that's always, I guess, might be a little curious for many is why the FCC is mandating what some consider a legacy service or a century-old service on top of modern broadband. And it's because of the importance of communication, especially what we're seeing now with COVID and the increased usage of home phone and work from home types of solutions where voice communications is essential to keep people connected. But also, it's very good business for service providers. It's a strong margin business. There's still a very substantial market for wireline phone, despite all the headlines and the usage of mobile phones and collaboration applications. The numbers are certainly trending down in aggregate, while the voice over IP portion of wireline phone has continued to grow in this 20 years. We've been at this transition from TDM to voice over IP for over 20 years now. This pie chart here on the right, 110 million wireline phones in the US, that's FCC data. It is dated. It doesn't come out too frequently after the close of a year. I think we'll get another update here on what 2019 looks like in a few months, and we can update that. And it'll probably be down closer to 105 million total, 102 million total wireline phones. But there's still a substantial market. Voice over IP just a couple of years ago became the dominant form of wireline phones. Again, even after 20 years into this transition, it's amazing that there's still tens of millions of POTS lines, legacy phone lines that are still out there. And the good thing about this rural broadband initiative and bringing phone requirements as part of it is it's bringing modern voice over IP, lower cost, more value, more capability services to rural markets that really had still been stuck on $50 a month usage-based legacy phone services. So the communities are definitely benefit as well, whether they're businesses or residential users that still rely on their wireline phone for a myriad of reasons. They're getting this benefit of now a service that costs $24.95, for instance, and has many more capabilities and unlimited US calling. So there's some great benefits there for the consumers, in addition to the service providers getting a margin-rich service that is going to help with their win rates and retention rates and just overall satisfaction of their customers.
Yeah, some of us remember those days of the old phone service, and you had almost no features, and you could call in your general local area. And it was long distance, and then there was these you had to dial like 20 digits to get some kind of long distance provider if you want to change. So it's totally different these days. The kids don't know these things, so yeah.
Yes, of course. But another point just to make on this, on the slide here is that while kind of over-the-top providers, especially serving the business community, get a lot of headlines, they are delivering a lot of innovation. They still, wireline phone, both for residential markets and business markets, continues to be dominated by the broadband service providers, or communication service providers, as we call them. At least that's the way it's sliced and diced by the FCC. So 85% of all voice over IP lines in the US, wireline ones, are from the local telco, from the ISP, from electric co-op, from the cable operator doing voice over IP, as opposed to that over-the-top Vonage or RingCentral provider. So that's good. The service providers, and it's because they're delivering the broadband, they're the local support, they're known in the community. They're providing they're making the installations. They're providing just a better overall experience in general for their business and residential customers.
Next slide.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Speaking of business, again, that previous chart, it was 61% of all wireline lines were voice over IP. It's not as strong in the business world. So again, amazingly, there's still a lot of legacy TDM out there, especially on the left-hand side. There's the blue bars there represent the percentage of businesses with legacy TDM solutions versus a voice over IP solution. Definitely trends higher, or is stronger adoption of voice over IP as the business sizes go up. But there's plenty of businesses that want to move towards a modern communication solution, and for whatever reason they haven't. Maybe they're waiting for end-of-life equipment. They don't have a lot of options. They weren't educated on what their options were. Plenty of reasons. Service providers, especially that are new, coming into serve rural markets, can take advantage of this, help those businesses save money. While at the same time, that service providers delivering a highly profitable service, and helps with the overall ROI acceleration for their fiber or wireless broadband build out. And so again, because of that big chunk of businesses still with legacy solutions, every analyst firm that's ever issued a report or talked on a conference all have strong forecasts of various types of what they might call it. This particular chart is from Frost and Sullivan from maybe a year or two ago. So they're always updating it, revising it upward what their adoption is. But they're expecting what they call hosted PBX, or unified communication as a service, users to increase quite a bit in this 7-year time period. And we expect them to keep revising those forecasts up because of all that potential. There's 6 million businesses in the US of various sizes, employing over 50 million people. So there's plenty of seats that can move over to these types of UC solutions.
That is another big change we've seen. As you say, it hasn't been as significant, or I guess as quick as on the residential side, but you see this move from your traditional telephone companies, and you had small businesses that had their own PBX or key system or something that they were getting their phone service for, and it was kind of complicated, and they needed somebody to manage all that kind of stuff, and it maybe didn't have lots of features. And now a lot of businesses are moving this way because it's a lot easier, right?
Yep,
there's a lot
absolutely.
More you can do.
Yeah. Yep. As all things have moved to the cloud, voice is certainly one of the ones that makes the most sense for businesses, especially if they had some of that complex infrastructure. And it's the same thing, that same argument for decreased cost, no CapEx, success-based model, ease of management, are all the same things that we talk about with service providers moving their voice to the cloud versus depending on switches and building out complex infrastructure, even if it's virtualized software.
Right. Yeah.
Again, good reasons to offer phone service. Again, despite a lot of headlines on cord cutting, most subscribers still take some sort of bundle. That 68% doesn't mean it's voice, but bundling still is very strong. We typically see 20 to 40% of broadband customers take a phone solution, obviously higher, if not over 50% when it comes to businesses, including we hear anecdotally a lot from our service provider customers that they can't get a business to switch to their broadband unless they're also offering a communication solution as well, whether that's SIP trunking, cloud PBX, or basic business lines. And typically today we see customers launching residential phone service in the $20 to $35 per month. You could certainly go higher if your market allows you to do that. And that's still going to be undercutting that $50 plus legacy solution that has a lot of a la carte complexity and usage-based charges bundled in, so it can certainly scale up past that $50. And then on the business side, $20 to $45 per month per business seat or line, depending on what exact solution is that you're bringing to market. So good revenue range there. Can even go higher than that. Again, if the market allows you to do it. You're going to get 60 to 80% gross margins generally on all these services. So it makes a lot of sense from a bottom line perspective, adds cash into that equation for your fiber broadband build out, which is taking significant dollars. And bundling is something that helps with winning as well as the customer the customer loyalty factor in reducing churn.
Right.
And the chart on the right here is just, we did a study with Heavy Reading, an analyst firm, a couple of years ago, and just asked this question, kind of flipping the view of, does the service provider think that that's true, that bundling is something that makes sense? And the vast majority of those that participated in that survey said, yep, this is putting voice in our portfolio just broadly helps us sell other stuff to our customers. Yeah,
it's so important, especially now, maybe for service providers that were providing video, pay TV, and a lot of them have seen that, they've seen their margins on that shrink, and customers have been cutting the cord. So it's another way to, like you said, kind of be more sticky and have customers that are getting another service from you. And here, as we're talking about RDOF, it's really required that you bundle these two things together, or that you have available, right?
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And it just makes great business sense. Even if RDOF, there's plenty of other service providers that aren't going to go after RDOF. They're finding other funding, or they're self-funded. And, I'd say from my experience, it's not a scientific survey or anything, but 9 out of 10 new service providers, whether mandated or not by the FCC, add a phone service to their offering, because it just, again, it's great business sense to do it. Yeah,
it really makes sense. You've got that connection going into the home or the business. And on the business side, it's really a foot in the door for so many other things that you can offer. I mean, if you're offering voice, then you can offer security services, you can offer backup, all kinds of things that you can offer, continue to offer these businesses that need services.
That's right. Yeah. And voice, once you're into this cloud communications model, once you're with an IP connection, voice is the starting point, and then you can add other things like collaboration, texting, other ways to allow that business to communicate. So there's a great way to expand beyond, just that phone, the IP phone that's sitting on the desk or mounted on the wall, or is a soft client on the worker's computer.
Okay. Well, so if you're interested in this, whether you've got RDOF funds, you think you're going to have RDOF funds and are going to have to provide this, or if it's something that you want to provide, you're not currently, you can check us out, voiceselect.com. Of course, ZCorum.com is our website, but voiceselect.com is specifically for our Voice Select product, which is a cloud-based voice service powered by Alianza. And so we partner together on that. We can do the device provisioning for the data and the voice devices, as well as tech support for the subscribers on the voice side, which is always something a lot of companies don't want to do, is handle those support calls for voice or whatever. So we can do voice and data. So make sure that you keep us in mind for that. So Kevin, as far as RDOF, if there are folks out there and they're like, well, what about this kind of a solution? If I wanted to look at this, what's involved for them. There's not a lot really that they have to do.
No.
So they can be getting into this very quickly if they get these funds and need to, like you said, have that going within the first 30 days or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the cloud-based approach makes total sense. There's no hardware, there's no software, there's nothing they need to go out and buy other than the devices they're already going to market with. I mean, one consideration is if they're doing business services, finding the right portfolio of phones to go to market with and devices to support that. But they're already installing modems or routers of some sort that typically have an ATA port. That is something they should think about when they're picking their CPE vendors, to make sure that they have one, if not multiple, port options to support, especially business environments. But super easy. It can be launched in as quick as 30 days if service providers need that. But this is the easy way to go. There's no reason to buy a switch anymore. Again, most service providers that are launching phone today aren't going to deploy a soft switch, buy a soft switch. They're going to go with a cloud-based solution to make it all easy, take care of all the complexity that used to be involved in voice over IP, and still is if they wanted to go down that build a network approach.
Yeah, it's the easy way and it's the smart way, really.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. And it's a success-based model, right? It scales as your revenue comes in, and you're not putting, a big capital outlay. That's all reserved for your fiber broadband or wireless broadband build-outs. And you have a nice success-based model that gives you really limitless scale. You don't need to worry about buying for that 10-year future. You can scale up to that over time.
And then, you think about the complexity of the equipment that they don't need to worry about because that's all handled for them, hosted. And then you've got other things that, like 911 and getting phone numbers and all of that, that's all taken care of as well, right?
Yep. You don't have to worry about the interconnections with carriers, 911, CALIA, all the kind of X11 services, 611, 211. And there's always changes, right? We have things like Raybaum's law and Carey's law, things related to 911, and you have stir, shaken, robocall blocking consideration. So another great benefit of the cloud model is that your vendor, your solution is keeping up with all those changes and keeping you compliant and making sure you're delivering a great experience to the end user.
Yep. Well, that's awesome. So again, if you've got whether you've got RDOF funds that you're going to be looking at or not, if you're looking for a voice solution, a cloud voice solution, then give us a call, or you see the email there, and go to the website, and we'll be happy to tell you all about it. Kevin, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting as these as these companies start getting their money. They're going to start building out, and they're going to need help, whether it's voice or broadband services. We are happy to help wherever we can. We can even help. We'd be happy to get you moving on construction, design and engineering, after the fact services like tech support, all the things that you need to be able to provide broadband service, especially if you're going to be new in this arena. ZCorum can help you, and with Alianza we partner together on the voice side. So thanks a lot, Kevin, and thanks everybody for joining me. So if this was helpful for you, please click the subscribe button below there on the YouTube channel and ring the little bell, and you'll be notified when I'm live, when I'm doing a Tech Tuesday, or anytime I post a video. And if you have any, I didn't see any questions come in live, but if anything comes up as you're watching this on the recorded on YouTube, as that comes up, just feel free to type that in the chat, and I will take care of that, and we'll get you an answer there. And if I need to, if it's really complicated, I'll get with Kevin, and if it's something on the deep technical voice side, I'll get him involved, and he'll answer it for us. So Kevin, thanks a lot, and I hope we can do this again. Oh, I just lost your audio, Kevin, so you can wave. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully, I think my audio is still working. So thanks, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday on Tech Tuesday. Bye-bye.